Flying can be a magical experience, but quite often it can also be a very expensive one. Hey there, I am Chris from Chris on Tour, and today I'm going to show you how to find the cheapest flight tickets. I've been traveling full-time for more than 3 years and I've made it to 106 countries, so I have plenty of experience about booking flights. I will focus on the 3 most essential tips. There's more details, of course, and I wrote an article about it on my website. I will link it down below. But today I want to focus on the 3 most important tips that hopefully will help you save some money as well when you book your next flight. Before we go into the details of the 3 points I would like to share with you, I want to give you a quick overview of these 3 points, looking at my website here. The first one is being flexible with time. I think that's the #1 most important aspect of finding good flights. If you're flexible with time, you will always be able to get the better deals. If you can only fly for New Year's or Independence Day, then there's no way of saving any money there. The second one is using the search engines, making sure to find the best possible time and route. And on this point, I will actually spend most of my time here in the video because I have a very recent example of me trying to find the best flights from Montenegro, where I will go in 3 weeks from now, towards Nepal. And last but not least, you should make sure to use the incognito mode of your browser, because sometimes the cookies will save your data and then you might end up paying a bit higher prices. The first point here with being flexible time is probably the most straightforward one, and the reason I want to bring it up first is because sometimes you might not even think about the timing that much, and you are maybe kind of stuck in a specific time frame. It is very important to check your flight for a complete month or even for multiple months to find out what day of the month will give you the best price. Looking at the Skyscanner site here, for instance, which I will go into more detail in the second point as well, we can clearly see that this flight from New York to London has a very kind of consistent pattern with cheap flights every 3rd or 2nd day, and then some other days will have very high prices. So you want to make sure that you're not flying on one of these high price segments. There are a lot of websites on the web that you can use which have calendar views, such as this one here, or the graph or the chart view that we just saw here. And if you're lucky enough to also be able to travel full time and you have complete flexibility in terms of timing, you can use the Skyscanner function of cheapest month. So instead of putting a specific month, you can click on cheapest month and then it will give you the best prices over the whole year. And that's actually something that I use a lot to plan my next trip, which will go into 80 countries over the next 3 years. And as mentioned in the beginning of the video, you want to make sure to avoid the big public holidays such as Christmas, New Year's, or in the States, the 4th of July, because those days will always be fully priced and there's a very low chance of actually getting some good discounts there. So try to find destinations where the airlines might struggle to get the airplane full, and then they might put up some even last minute deals out. Primarily in terms of timing, I prefer to book around 2 months before I go to a place. That would be ideal, but the planning starts a bit before that. So I usually check the best flights, and I'm going to show you how to do that in the second point. And once I have the best connection set up, I will monitor the prices for a few days or few weeks, depending on how much time I have. And then I can see if they're going up or down, and I will know exactly what's a good price and what is a standard price. And when I see a price that's better than the last previously known best price, then I would just go ahead and book. So timing is everything in terms of flight booking. If you're flexible, it will help you a lot. If you're not flexible, you probably have to do a bit more work to get to that good deal. And we're heading over to the second point now, which will go into more detail on that. My second point of using search engines to find the best routes and time, I will teach you exactly how to use Skyscanner and similar websites to make sure to find these great deals. So jumping in straight into Skyscanner, for instance, you can, instead of just searching for A to B connection like New York to London, you could also say, okay, I want to go somewhere, but I'm quite flexible where to go. And for that, you have the everywhere feature, and that gives you a list of all the destinations sorted by pricing Sometimes I actually end up going to destinations that I didn't really think of just because I found a really cheap flight. So in this example, I could see that there's plenty of destinations that can be reached for very little money from the US. So maybe I'll make the decision to have a little stopover in one of these places. But if I want to get home as fast as possible, I could just scroll down here, and the first European one would be Spain. So I can see for 124 euros, I can fly from New York to Madrid. Another very cool website for that is Google Flights, which works in a similar way, but it has a nicer map. So you could say, I want to go from New York with a one-way ticket. And here you can now put in regions. So instead of Germany, I could just put in Europe to get all of Europe. And then you put in your flight date. I'll just put like a random date next month. And then you get this huge map here with all the major destinations of Europe. So rather than saying, okay, I want to go back to Germany, but hey, what if I go to Madrid first? Maybe I can visit some friends there, see something that I haven't seen yet. And from there, within Europe, it's usually pretty easy to get around with the cheap airlines like Ryanair. You can fly from Madrid to Germany for 10 euros without the luggage though. But I really like this overview because it just gives you a visual representation of the cheapest destinations. So those are the two websites that I currently use. There are other websites, of course, as well. Kayak is one of the ones that is used by a lot of people. I personally don't like it so much. Maybe it's because of the layout. I'm not sure. But you don't really need that many. If you have one or two search engines, that's already enough to get you good prices. I'd like to spend some more time on that second point because I have a very recent example of my own trip planning from Montenegro to Nepal. And that's a little bit tricky right now because Nepal it's open for tourists. You need a quarantine even if you're vaccinated. But most airlines have not resumed their flights yet. So there's pretty much only two options to get into Nepal right now. One is from the Middle East and the other one is from India. And sadly, there are no direct flights from Europe. So I will actually head over to Montenegro in a few weeks from now. And from there, I wanted to see what is my best connection towards Nepal. Yeah, and if you go straight into Skyscanner again to kind of check that, if I put in Montenegro as a country and as a destination, I want to go to Nepal. My flight time would be in October this year. And Podgorica, that's the capital. So as you can see, Skyscanner is not even showing you any flights in overview. That's usually a bad sign because it means that there's not so many flights around. But I've checked a few of the dates, and usually it's around 400 to 500 euros with a lot of stopovers. So this flight here is 40 hours. The best flight is just 10 hours with a stopover in Istanbul. And that costs 560 euros. So obviously that was a little bit too much for a one-way ticket. I was digging around to see if I can get there cheaper. And after a little bit of research, there's a good connection through Serbia and Dubai. And I'm going to show you how I found that connection out. So the first thing I did was using the everywhere function, but in a reverse way. So I was checking which destinations from Nepal are the cheapest to fly into. And usually when you have that information, you can assume that it's also relatively cheap to fly in from that location. So in this case, flying to India is the cheapest, and then you have Malaysia, Qatar, Sri Lanka, UAE. And now knowing that I'm based in Montenegro, the most obvious choice was either Qatar or UAE. I was actually doing the research already, and Dubai has a really good connection to Nepal right now. So if I then check Dubai to Nepal, I will see that there's flights for 129 euros, and there's a lot of flights. There's pretty much daily flights, which is always a good thing. If you only have a connection that has 1 or 2 flights per month, it's usually a bit more risky to book these flights. But knowing that I can fly from Dubai to Kathmandu for 120 euros, now I just have to figure out how do I get to Dubai. So I do the same thing. I put Dubai to everywhere, and I check which of the destinations close to Montenegro are relatively cheap. And here I can see we have Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania. Yeah, they're close by, but they're not around the corner. So Bulgaria, Hungary, and Romania, all of them, you would drive for 1 or 2 days. But I was scrolling down the list a bit further to see that there's also Serbia. So Serbia for 66 euros. is relatively close to Montenegro. So with that, I can now go from Montenegro to Serbia first, making my way to Belgrade. And I haven't really explored much of Serbia at all. I've pretty much only been to Belgrade, so it's actually a great way for me to see more of the country. Then I can fly from Belgrade to Dubai, spend a few days there, and then finally fly out to Nepal. And overall, it will cost around 200 euros rather than the 450 euros that I've seen before if you just search directly from Montenegro to Nepal. So that's one example of how to save money using these search engines. As I mentioned, there's other search engines as well. They all kind of work in a similar way. Some of them have unique features, but I'm pretty much used to Skyscanner, but I also sometimes use the map feature of Google Flights. That's like the most important tip, in my opinion, on how to save money on the flights. Let's go over to the third one now. Last but not least, we're getting to the third point of my collection of how to save money booking flights. It's using the Incognito modus. Yeah, the Incognito modus in Chrome looks something like that. And what it does is pretty much making sure that the browser is not taking any of your saved information. You know, everything that you do in a non-incognito environment is saved in cookies. So websites will know where you've been browsing, what have you been searching for, and especially for the websites that offer you flights, they will know which flight connections have you been checking up on. And then sometimes they will give you some higher prices. Going into the Sri Lankan Airlines website here, which was the best connection I could find for my flight from Dubai to Nepal. I'm now accessing that website in the incognito modus. And I would then check if I can find the same connection on their website as well. Yeah, and usually the cost is exactly the same as you would see in the search engine. And sometimes you get some better prices in the search engine. Sometimes they have some promo codes maybe that they applied, and you could be a little bit cheaper off compared to booking it straight on the airline website. But if that's not the case and the airline website has the same price or maybe even a cheaper one than the search engine, I would always book it straight from the airline, because then, you know, you don't have that middleman anymore, and it kind of gives me a better ease of mind if I booked it straight on the website. And yeah, those are the 3 tips that I could share with you. I wanted to keep this video short. It's the very first how-to video that I'm doing on my YouTube channel. Usually I focus on actual trip reports. Feel free to check out my videos from the PCT, which I was recently hiking in the USA. And I have plenty of other videos as well. It would be great if you stick around on my channel and let me know in the comments if you would like to see more how-to videos. I also specialize on budget traveling, and I'm tracking all of my travel costs. I have a huge Excel file, which would be another separate topic for another video if you guys are interested. Would be happy to hear from you in the comments, and I will see you in the next video, hopefully. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. I really hope that you liked it. If you did, leave me some feedback in the comments below, hit that like button, and make sure to subscribe for future content. And by the way, I just also created a Patreon page where you can support me financially and receive exclusive benefits. So if you're interested in that, check out the link below.